We got Epstein files to discuss.
Millions of pages of evidence from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation is drawing attention all over the world. This goes beyond new evidence of the sex abuser's friendship with King Charles's brother, Andrew. The scandal is also forcing Britain's prime minister to answer tough questions about his leadership. Lee Canary has more from London.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor moved out of his royal lodge Monday, stripped of his home and royal titles for his association with Jeffrey Epstein and accusations of sexual abuse that he denies. Last weekend's release made these photos public. Andrew crouched over a female on the floor in Epstein's New York home and appears to confirm this infamous photo of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre as real. Now, UK police are investigating allegations from a second woman who claims Epstein sent her to the UK for a sexual encounter with Andrew in 2010.
My mother would be proud.
British authorities are also investigating this former UK lawmaker, Lord Peter Mandelson, for alleged abuse of public office, after the latest release posted photos of him and emails he sent to Epstein sharing confidential, market-sensitive information while in a government position. Prime Minister Keir Starmer made Mandelson the ambassador to the U.S. last year, and this morning he's apologizing to victims.
Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him.
Mandelson spoke to the BBC last month, denying any wrongdoing.
There were no girls on that island when I was there.
But victims like Ashley Rubright want accountability in America, too.
I would go as far as to say the leaders in the past 5 administrations should be brought in and questioned. There has definitely not been enough accountability. Absolutely not.
Accountability is what's being demanded here in Westminster and beyond, as Epstein's connections all over the world have been revealed. In fact, Poland is investigating possible links between Epstein and Russian authorities to determine whether he could have been working as a spy. Adriana?
Yeah,
when millions.
I love that the meta is to just be like, no, Epstein for sure wasn't an Israeli agent, in spite of the numerous connections to Israel, in spite of all of his advocacy for Israel, in spite of all the work that he did for the Israeli government alongside Ehud Barak. It's actually, he's a Russian. He's a Russian agent. He's KGB. He's FSB. Fucking awesome. I love that. I love that the media is doing that instead. He probably was working with Russia. He was working with Israel and USA too. He probably worked with any intelligence agency that would have him. Yeah, no, I know. But it's kind of odd, don't you think? That there's only one country that they're farming here. Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released video logs appear to contradict official accounts. He literally said this to Ehud. I didn't think about it until I saw this Channel 14 post, but what Ehud Barak told Epstein in the recently revealed file actually aligns perfectly with the Israeli right-wing's favorite conspiracy theory about a so-called leftist elite trying to destroy Israel's Jewish character. The point is Israel's central to Epstein's operation, chatter, not Russia. Exactly. His initial connection to Russia was on Israel's behalf, so skipping to Russia is putting the cart before the horse. Yeah. Like, the amount of connections he has to, first of all, the amount of connections that Russian oligarchs have specifically to the state of Israel is already plentiful, right? But outside of that, there is an abundance of conversations that we now have access to. Where Jeffrey Epstein is having long back and forths with Ehud Barak, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and I think he was a defense minister at the time when those conversations were taking place, of the Israeli state. There is no such Russian equivalence. So to hyper-focus on the Russian element here is utterly ridiculous. Yes, I saw the Channel 14 clip. I covered it as well. Like the hostages, the issue of Epstein's connections to Ehud Barak play out completely different in American and Israeli politics. Where Benjamin Netanyahu posted this clip. from Channel 14 where they're talking about Jeffrey Epstein's connection to Ehud Barak. For those of you who don't know, Ehud Barak is supposed to be a part of the opposition, or was the opposition to Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu was Likud. Ehud Barak is supposed to be the liberal, the more tolerable liberal Zionist opposition, even though they fucking completely align on the issue of Jewish supremacy and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, right? Very, very little daylight between the two. So this conversation takes place between Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein, where they're discussing the issue with the population growth of Arabs in Israel. Okay, that's the real point of contention that they're trying to address. I want to start there, though, because the way that these guys actually take this conversation is very different. I said it's funny that this was his takeaway, Benjamin Netanyahu's takeaway from the conversation Ehud Barak and Epstein were having about Israel's demographic concerns around the Arab population's growth. Jeffrey Epstein's suggestion to the Arab population's growth is to basically bring in people who are not like originally Jewish, but like white people, and then loosen up the restrictions around conversion. Because from what I understand, as it stands, you have to be an Orthodox Jew if you're converting. Jeffrey Epstein's suggestion is you shouldn't be Orthodox. You shouldn't have to be Orthodox. You just like claim being Jewish as a white guy, and then this will make up for the demographic problems, the demographic concerns that Israel has because it wants to maintain a Jewish ethnic majority, a Jewish ethno-religious majority, right? So Benjamin Netanyahu, on the other hand, has a very different approach to this. He says, an amazing revelation about Ehud Barak that was exposed in recordings of his pedophile friend Jeffrey Epstein. Ehud Barak suggests carrying out selection among Jews and importing to Israel the right kind of Jews, those who are neither Mizrahi nor right-wing. When the left and its messiah, Ehud Barak, fail to win at the ballot box, they try to replace the people. And if that's not enough, they can always rely on Bennett and Lapid's Brotherhood of Brothers to team up again with the Muslim Brotherhood. While Ehud Barak and Benjamin Netanyahu and Jeffrey Epstein are completely aligned on the demographic concerns that Israel has, they might differ in their solutions, even though the original solution to the demographic concerns was to literally do this with Russian migration, famously, because like there are a lot of Russians in Israel that have no traceable, especially matrilineal Jewish ancestry, right? So they already had done this before to make Israel more white, not just to make Israel more Jewish, but to make Israel more white. They just basically took in a lot of people from the USSR at the time who aren't Jewish, and then they were just like, yeah, these people are Jewish as well. So that's literally all Jeffrey Epstein is suggesting in this instance, a different version of that, right? It's just ironic that Benjamin Netanyahu took that and turned it into something that was beneficial for his, or took that as a threat against his political project instead. Like he cares about the Mizrahi. Asked the Tunisian Berber Jews who came back to Tunisia how nice Israel was to them. Mind you, Tunisia is mainly white, so its Jewish population. The issue is that they're too berber. Yeah. Epstein helped Ehud address this demographic concern via Thiel. Of course, in the years that followed, Thiel's company became heavily involved in Israel and its military, supplying the error-prone AI tools it used to indiscriminately slaughter civilians in Gaza and signing a strategic partnership with his MOD. I mean, I don't know if that had anything to do with the demographic concerns at all. But yeah, he did get Ehud Barak to bring Palantir technology into. It's funny because Netanyahu is basically doing great replacement conspiracy, but for white people. Yeah. Anyway, that's just one aspect of the Epstein saga.
Files linked to Jeffrey Epstein landed.
Interesting that, once again, often not discussed in Western news at all.
They expose the life obsessively documented. Like this video of the convicted paedophile dancing. A billionaire who used his enormous wealth to abuse and hid behind a luxury lifestyle.
Whoa.
The Epstein files contain videos of massages, private jets, and pools.
I've never seen so many beautiful girls.
A bizarre mix of more than 2,000 videos, 180,000 images, 3 million emails, texts, flight logs, all still being sifted through. Released by the US Department of Justice without context, some videos less than a second long. In this clip, Epstein chases women through a kitchen. Voices of unidentified girls can be heard. There's also this of Epstein, which appears to be filmed while he's in prison. He's secretly recording a video message for 2 women, who we won't name.
You can see I have a little sore on my face that I got from some black guy trying to kiss me. It's really disgusting.
Among the files, heavily redacted, sexually explicit videos. And it's not just Jeffrey Epstein's personal images. The files also contain videos captured by the US authorities. Here, Ghislaine Maxwell, in 2016, being questioned over Virginia Giuffre's civil case.
Who were the other 17-year-old masseuses they were aware of?
I'm not aware of any.
Were there any 16-year-old masseuses you were aware of?
I'm not aware.
Any 15?
Look, I just want to be clear. The only person that I'm aware of who claims to have been, and we have to, whilst I've established that I was 17, given that she has changed her age so many times.
And here she is in July 2020, a glimpse into her life inside her cell. She was waiting to hear whether or not she would be granted bail. And outside it, relaxed, making phone calls, some lasting more than 20 minutes, while facing charges of recruiting women and girls, including a 14-year-old. On Monday, Maxwell will be testifying under oath before Congress. The committee will be investigating the government's handling of the Epstein files. There is this footage from Epstein's Paris apartment. Pharrell Williams' happy plays as a woman dances. A DNA paternity test can be seen on Epstein's desk. The same home where this now infamous photo of Peter Mandelson was taken. Which brings us neatly to here, Epstein outside the Louvre, with France's former culture minister, Jack Lang. Of course, we should say, appearing in the files doesn't imply any wrongdoing.
Well,
the files show excess, hotel rooms, flat...
That's kind of wild to say that while, putting up a B-roll footage of fucking Woody Allen, who is, he's just a pest in his own right, even before the Epstein stuff, right? So kind of an odd choice there if you're trying to protect the image of some of these people that were affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting.
Cars, selfies. In one clip, Candle in the Wind plays from his personal playlist on board what appears to be Epstein's private jet. Millions of files with little explanation. For survivors, the release reopens old wounds. While context is often missing, discomfort isn't.
We've now been through more than 60,000 photos and videos and thousands more emails in the Epstein files. Here's what you need to know. Bill Gates is the latest high-profile figure to face pressure after being named in the files. This photo of him is taken from...
Yeah, not everyone mentioned in the Epstein files is affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, Norm Finkelstein is a great example of that. Norm Finkelstein was told them to fuck off, basically, when they were trying to establish connection. I think they even talked about anti-Israel celebrities, and Zayn Malik is mentioned in the files for that reason, because he was mentioned as an anti-Israel celebrity. But then there's also the Bill Gateses of the world. And Bill Gates, of course, is heavily involved and implicated in at least trying to figure out a way to rid his wife at the time, Melinda Gates, of a STD that he most likely contracted from someone on the island.
We don't have the context around it. And again, merely appearing in the files isn't a suggestion of wrongdoing. Now, in one email sent by Jeffrey Epstein to himself, a draft email that was never sent on to anyone else, he accuses Bill Gates of catching a sexually transmitted infection and then secretly trying to provide antibiotics to his wife at the time, Melinda Gates. Bill Gates has rejected that allegation, saying it is false, and says he regrets ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein. Now, in another email sent by Epstein to himself, he says that he was helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls. Again, he's denied those allegations, but his wife, Melinda Gates, his ex-wife, has said that he has to answer some questions.
For me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
The co-founder of Microsoft has not been accused by any of Epstein's victims, and he called the allegations absurd and completely false. He also spoke on Australia's Channel 9.
I met Jeffrey in 2011, so over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, it's factually true that I was only at dinners, you know, I never went to the island, I never met any women, and so, you know, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that
I don't know about that, big dog. I don't know about that, big dog.
Although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
We've also unearthed more emails detailing the relationship between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. This is an email from 2010 where Peter Mandelson says he's gone to a spa. It was great, apart from the lack of happy ending. Now, whether that's a joke or not, it's notable that Mandelson is using sexualized language here, because when he's previously talked about his relationship with Epstein, he said that as a gay man, he was kept away from the sexual nature of his life. And then there's this, another email.
Bro tried to hit the Kevin Spacey. I'm gay. Like, as though that fucking means that you can't be engaging in criminal acts.
Exchange. And this one was sent on the day that Jeffrey Epstein was released from prison in 2009 after being convicted of soliciting child prostitution. He says, free and home. Mandelson writes back, how shall we celebrate?
Mandelson's involvement in the Labor Party is so perverse and so widespread. Like, his influence is all over the modern iteration of the Labor Party. So if Keir Starmer can get away scot-free from this connection, it will imply that the UK, just like the United States of America, has no real criminal justice system at all. Keir Starmer already is a deeply unpopular figure. And utter vindication for Corbyn, obviously, once again. How do people just accept Starmer, who came to power on the BS ousting of Corbyn, or Macron, who did some BS to retain power after the left won? They just don't think about it, I think.
Epstein says to him, with grace and modesty.
Why rope Keir into this? Because Mandelson was one of the major players, if I'm not mistaken, on the ouster. I mean, Keir Starmer was one of the major players in the ouster of Jeremy Corbyn. Because if you recall, when Corbyn came to power, they tried to ouster him on numerous occasions. And then the one that actually stuck amidst the separate controversy around Brexit was the anti-Semitism allegations. And of course, the media environment was very different back then, right? The media environment around anti-Semitism allegations, especially as it pertains to like any sort of commentary that is anti-Zionist, especially in the UK, was poisonous. And they basically destroyed Corbyn's momentum by consistently calling him an anti-Semite and also even setting up an internal labor investigation with some members personally engaging in anti-Semitism to call out anti-Semitism within the Labor Party structure to then tie it back to Jeremy Corbyn. Didn't Corbyn only step down after losing the 2019 election? He held on to leadership prior to that? Yes. But a big part of the reason why he lost the 2019 election is because they hung him up with two different reasons. One, well, he had a not so great approach to the Brexit conversation where it was like inconsistent. It was wishy-washy. He tried to assume like a left pro-Brexit position while simultaneously recognizing the issues with Brexit, which was certainly a problem. But he also got sabotaged from within the party because, one, he didn't already have enough. He had tremendous support from the rank and file, tremendous support from the Labor Party voters, but he did not have any support within the actual the actual political structure of the party. He had a small contingency of Corbynites within the party, but the rest of the party was actually right-wing Labor acolytes, Keir Starmer being one of them. And the entire party infrastructure basically spent every waking moment trying to cast them out. And the way they did so successfully, for those of you who don't know, was by hitting him as an anti-Semite viciously from within the party. They smeared him as an anti-Semite over and over and over again. From October 2020, Sir Keir clarified on Friday morning that it was Mr. Corbyn's comments about the exaggeration of anti-Semitism that was the main reason for his suspension. Jeremy Corbyn joined Labour 55 years ago as a teenager and led the party into the last general election, but the Islington North MP has now been suspended pending an investigation. Keir Starmer literally was one of these guys. Yeah, he fully lent into a Benite-style pro-Brexit position. Corbyn, if he fully lent into a what? Benite-style pro-Brexit position, Corbyn could have won. Yeah, I mean, Brexit was I'm offering you clarity on this.
One of the main reasons that Peter Mandelson was let off the hook and eased into one of the most important offices he could be given by the Prime Minister was because of his role in internal Labour Party factional affairs. And that is...
Yeah, and this internal Labour Party factional affair was around the issue of made-up allegations of anti-Semitism surrounding Jeremy Corbyn. And the reason for why they kept calling him an anti-Semite is because of his now totally vindicated position of being openly supportive of Hezbollah as a political movement in the country of Lebanon and being pro, Palestinian resistance. Like, there are a lot of things that you look back at throughout Corbyn's career where he had moments of political bravery that was not even exhibited by the likes of Bernie Sanders, for example, that offer clarity into how correct his fucking position was right now. But at the time, it was a third rail. And he was routinely punished for it, cast aside, and called and smeared viciously as an anti-Semite. Fabricated attacks, exaggerated attacks, some that by today's standards would not even be considered a fucking attack. Like, being an anti-Zionist is not even a point of contention any longer, right? As a matter of fact, it's helpful to be an anti-Zionist for a popularity contest, even in a place like England. His moral consistency on the issue of apartheid, straight up, was the reason why they cast him aside. They internally shanked him.
Is just completely wrong. I mean, I'll quote Peter Mandelson, who said, "I work every single day in some small way to bring forward the end of his term in office," referring, of course, to the Right Honourable member for Islington North, and that comment was made whilst he was leader of the Labour Party, and Lord Mandelson was a Labour Party member. And I would say that that is the reason he was so grateful for the job that Peter Mandelson did, kicking the left again and again in the Labour Party. The reward for that factional role that he boasted about, that he revelled in, the reward for that was that a blind eye was turned to the fact that the Prime Minister knew of the relationship between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey.
Yeah. They turned a blind eye to the Epstein affiliations at the time, or maybe they even fucking welcomed it, because these guys were all there to rat fuck Jeremy Corbyn. And the reason why they wanted to rat fuck Jeremy Corbyn was because of his consistent anti-apartheid, anti-Zionist advocacy and position. It was seen as a non-starter. They wanted him out for, his anti-capitalist stance as well. But the weapon that they wielded in the pliant British press was smears and allegations of anti-Semitism. The reason why the Labour Party is the Blairite party once again, under the leadership of Keir Starmer, where their approval ratings have fucking plummeted in spite of their electoral victory, is because they did this. Okay? They knocked the wind from under the sails of the left momentum that Labour had, where Jeremy Corbyn secured more votes in the last election, the last election prior to the last election, than fucking Keir Starmer did in the last election. Think about that. Keir Starmer won the election in spite of his underperformance in comparison to Jeremy Corbyn the election prior.
Epstein. The reality is, and I will give way in a second, the reality is that Peter Mandelson wouldn't have made it onto a panel of local election candidates in the Labour Party. Yet he...
Chad is saying Labour Party suspended a black Jewish woman, Jackie Walker, for saying that hatred against black people are more prevailed in British society than anti-Jew hatred. Yeah. I mean, the Brits are even fucking crazier. Like, if we're talking about like weird philo-Semitism, the British government and the British media is far worse than like the American government and the American media. I would say that at least the American media just like straight up doesn't cover this shit. Like the New York Times is not writing extensively about my anti-Semitism, right? Like that's just like, Jewish Insider, New York Post, maybe Fox News Digital, and some of these other outlets that are like a part of the ADL smear apparatus. The New York Times is not doing that. Whereas British media will take it to that level. You will have the Guardian and the BBC write about fucking anti-Semitism, the anti-Semitism of Jeremy Corbyn. It's far worse. Or not even just the anti-Semitism of Jeremy Corbyn, but just like anything, any conversation surrounding Israel is immediately it immediately revolves around like how anti-Semitic the fucking person is, unless they're like 100% full-blown pro-Israel. It's pretty wild that it's like, I mean, they got the media on a fucking vice grip over there.
He wouldn't have made it into the Parliamentary Labour Party as a candidate for the general election, yet because of his factional role and his relationship with the super rich that quite frankly stinks, he was eased into the position of ambassador to the United States of America. And that's the truth, whether or not people choose to admit it, and I will give way. One of the main reasons...
What is this? As a Lebanese guy, I hate Hezbollah. After getting Corbyn, they literally ousted every Corbynite member of the party. Exactly. As a Lebanese guy, I hate Hezbollah for their conservative and repressive local politics. The only good thing they do is anti-Zionism, which is the reason they grew to the position they did within Lebanon. Yeah, of course. I mean, that is the position of Hezbollah. Like, first as a Shia militancy that was like to protect the Shia population, but then obviously more consequentially a paramilitary alongside its like parliamentary initiatives, a paramilitary that was capable of successfully pushing back against Israel and purging the Israeli forces from the boundaries of Lebanon. People are speculating Peter Mandelson, a longtime member of the Trilateral Commission, nominated Keir Starmer to join. Definitely possible. Starmer joined in 2017-2018 just as Mandelson's protege Morgan McSweeney became the director of Labour Together and initiated a plot against Corbyn. By the way, this is where the new British opinion polls look like for voting intention. Reform UK has the top slot with 31. Greens are at 18. Shouts out to the Greens. Labour has dropped down to the fourth position at 16. Conservatives are still at 18%, which is crazy. But now Greens are in the second slot. The UK, as I correctly predicted, is seeing a sea of fascism, a growth of fascism. What a fucking spectacular defeat. Also, your party, due to its internal collapse, is not even in the is in the other category, basically. Remember when I told you that this was what was going to happen with Keir Starmer and there were a lot of naysayers in the chat? Yes, Reform is the fascist party in the UK. And they've been picking up conservative MPs left and right. And they have totally dominated the right-wing slant of British politics since Keir Starmer rose to power. And I told you that already. This is not a tiny sample. This is 2,264 adults. That's not a tiny sample at all. That's actually that's an adequate sample size. Here. We'll talk about the Tories today and their gigantic, ginormous, whopping L that they received, among many other things. But beyond that, it's not exactly a sign of good things to come. And I will tell you exactly why. Not because I'm some hater who's always saying like, oh, progress is never happening or anything. Good W for Jezza as an independent in Islington. We'll talk about that as well. But Tories were so... Scotland didn't even vote for its own guys. Dude, it is pretty crazy seeing this massive wave of support, dude. Reform didn't do well as predicted. Shame that where I live voted for them. Wait, what do you mean didn't do as well as predicted? No, they did gangbusters. What are we talking about? Reform did predicted as in 13 and only got 5 or 4. No, but that's still, guys, in comparison to the exit polls, they did way worse. But it doesn't matter. They still got millions of votes, okay? It's like the British Nazi Party getting millions of votes. That's not... Reform won second in 98 seats. Like, you cannot tell me that this is not legitimately troublesome. This is the British Nazi Party, dude. It is crazy. And here's why it's damaging, because immediately people start going, Reform isn't as extreme as other right-wing parties in Europe. Like, people are already doing, people have this tendency without recognizing what they are doing to normalize extremist politics. And this unfortunately never happens for leftist politics. It never happens for like socialism. It only happens for further and further reactionary right-wing politics. And I don't even think that guy is like secretly a reform supporter or anything. I just simply think that that guy is doing the predictable thing that many people do when they see a genuine cause for concern, and then their first reaction to this genuine cause of concern is not to analyze it and go, oh my God, this is damaging, this is terrifying. There's millions of people in our neighborhoods that went and voted for like out and about fascists. Second place in 98 districts is unimaginably bad, especially because of what I said earlier, that like the conservatives, in order to launch a stronger opposition, will most likely play the role of normalizing reform's policies. You've seen this already happen with the AfD in Germany. You've seen this happen with Marine Le Pen, the nationalist the party in France. It starts off marginal, and then before you know it, 2 election cycles later, you're like, what the fuck's going on? How do we get here? And there's always people like myself who have been cut.
Bro, there's still people saying green's too extreme. Like, come on, brother. No, they're not. Anyway, the other part of this analysis is when I talk about I think it might be here, is when I talk about how Keir Starmer's poor performance, if he pivots to the right, Keir Starmer's poor performance is going to lead to a fucking groundswell of reform voters. It's basically going to operate like a funnel where, oh, this is still business as usual politics. Camp territory, like immediately, okay? Like the British boomer class is out of control, dude. I have a hard time with how the left can win in Europe because unlike in the US, they do actually have genuinely leftist options like Mélenchon. They just don't like them. No, I know. There's a lot of brainwashing and a lot of propaganda in the, you know, European press.
Country is freshly disgusted by the Mandelson affair, doesn't want to listen to Starmer, and the country remains disgusted by the way the Tories behaved when they were in power. And so today, the obvious conclusion, the overwhelming likelihood, is that we are heading towards a plague on both their houses' election and a reform government. Politics of Peter Mandelson, who he now regards as the viper he took to his bosom, is all about the interests of the super rich, the corporate bankers, the big American tech companies digging themselves ever deeper into our public life. The Mandelson affair wasn't just about one guy making a mistake about another guy. It was about the arrogance and the entitlement of the privileged them, and these days, the increasingly furious us. And that is why, even though Epstein was deeply involved in the far right across Europe and the Russians, populism has not yet been set back by this affair. It may be unfair, but Nigel Farage remains in a very strong position, and we are heading for wild political upsets.
Zach Palensky's message convinced me to become a Green member and stand as a councilman for them in May. Hell yeah. Crazy that the only way you were wrong is it's now Labor that's normalizing reform policy and even getting outflanked to the left by reform, like the 2-child benefit cap. No, I said that too. I said that the Labor would adopt the Conservative Party politics and that eventually that would cause reform to go even further right, normalizing the reform position of prior years, right? And it would make the Reform Party go even further right. So no, that is the exact prediction I made. I said that Labor was going to adopt a lot of the Conservative party platform positions, and then this would cause reform to harden their stance and go even further right. This has a normalizing effect. And the only reason why I knew this was going to happen is because I'm watching it happen every fucking election cycle in the United States of America with the Democrats. Ratcheting further and further to the right once again. I don't know about reform's position on the 2-child cap, but what I do know is, in terms of dealing with migrants, the Labor Party came in and took most of the Conservative Party's position, which allowed the Reform Party to even go further to the right on immigration. That's usually how it works, because you can never outflank the fascists. You can never outflank a reactionary on issues that they are known to support. The Democrats in the United States of America will never be the more racist party out of the two, or the more anti-immigrant party, let's say. That's just not going to happen. It will only cause a normalization of the right-wing position on immigration, and then it will cause the Republicans to go further right. Keir Starmer said he has no reason to believe that Lord Mandelson was telling anything other than the truth about his relationship with Epstein, but he did have good reason. The Financial Times article from the brilliant Pickard in June 2023, which we're told is in the Cabinet Office report, had extensive details about the relationship. This picture alone should have raised concerns. Reform wants to make beer cheaper by lowering the tax on it. They said money will be raised by reinstating the 2-child limit. So, anyway, this is just like British politics, but
those are the names of two strippers.
The same meta that exists in the fucking British British parliamentary politics is exactly the same in the United States of America as well.
Mandelson replies, from now on, grace and modesty should be discovered in London. We've also found new video of Jeffrey Epstein himself, apparently in detention, apparently sending a covert message to two women. We're not naming the two women. And he appears to be in detention because of the clothes he's wearing, the context in which he talks, and the backdrop.
Okay, so Darren and I are sitting here. You can hear the echo. I'm pretending I'm talking to Darren. So, hi Darren. So, you guys having a good time? You can see I have a little sore on my face that I got from some black guy trying to kiss me. It's really disgusting. With his tongue. Oh, it's really, oh. Anyway, I have pictures up on the wall. I had to borrow the Scotch tape to get the pictures on the wall. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
That video is in stark contrast to most of what we've seen in the Epstein files, which show him living an extravagant billionaire lifestyle. Instead, we see where his crimes led him. So too with this more than 400-page report from the FBI investigating his death in custody. That was eventually ruled a suicide.
Yeah.
The Trump administration plans to withdraw 700.
Sure. Anyway, so where is it? Last part of the Epstein saga that I want to dive into briefly, we can get back to it in a little bit, is of course this aspect. Murdoch-owned New York Post puts on Facebook a story teasing that Epstein was a foreign agent for Russia law. They didn't turn off the comments, and well, no one in the massive comment section was buying it. Okay? Telegraph did this as well. Poland to examine the increasingly likely possibility that pedophilia scandal was co-organized by intelligence services in Moscow. Okay? Best part of Russiagate 2, the Israel obfuscation, is that no one buys this theory. If no one buys this theory, it means that there's a good chance Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Bill Richardson. Oh, sorry. If one buys this theory, it means that there's a good chance Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Bill Richardson, Reid Hoffman, and other prominent Democrats are all compromised by Compromat or whatever, creating a double reverse Russiagate. Like, they can't say it's Israel for some reason. I wonder why, right? So they have to obfuscate and claim it's Russia. But if it's Russia, then all of these prominent Democrats that are Epstein affiliates are all Russian agents or have been compromised by Russia. You can't have it both ways. The Russiagators are going to collapse in on themselves until we end up with Putin building Compromat on the whole world, thus liberating our liberal class from any meaningful power analysis or introspection. In the end, everyone will get off the hook, even Putin. This is a good way to formulate it. The problem with Russiagate and Russia Angela Epstein's isn't that they are wrong, but they are way, way too narrow. These are scandals of global oligarchy, of which the Russian component is but a subset. Yeah, both the Epstein scandal and Russiagate are about a sphere of elite impunity where American consultants, Russian oligarchs, Saudi princes, European politicians, Israeli intelligence figures, and British ex-spies all swim. This is silly, I'm sorry. His contact with Russia was limited, largely on behalf of Israel, and mostly pre-2014 invasion of Crimea when Russia was not non grata. There's overlap, but there's also distinct spheres of influence, and flattening into global oligarchy obscures this. His Israeli and U.S. contacts are 100 times more than his Russian ones. It's not even close, and boosting the latter obviously serves to obscure the former. That's precisely the reason why they're doing it, by the way. The reason why they're doing this, like, oh, there's a real Russian component to this investigation from Poland, but onward, is because they don't want to say Israel. And they think, oh, well, this way we can tie it and obfuscate the Israeli intelligence angle, and we can tie it to a foreign adversary that everyone can unconditionally get behind fighting against. Okay? That's it. It's totally, nakedly, brazenly a distractionary technique. They're just trying to deflect away from the main point of contention here. And it's ironic because many people, either for like illegitimate and somewhat anti-Semitic reasons, or for the overwhelming majority, very legitimate and very, because they're capable of critical thinking, reasons such as that, it's Israel. Okay? That's it. It's so fucking ridiculous. It makes no sense. Like, which one do you think is more prominent a fixture in Epstein's in Epstein's relationship with foreign with foreign spying with foreign intelligence agencies, Russia or Israel? Oh, maybe it's China. Yeah, exactly.
Suspicions are growing and action is now being taken. For Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, the latest information...
It's ironic because this reminds me of the Russiagate investigation that was conducted initially. As you guys know, I was never big on the Russiagate stuff regardless. Although I did think that there was definitely enough evidence that Russia was meddling in the affairs of the U.S. election, as, you know, great powers do. The ways in which the Democrats coped with the Hillary Clinton defeat was to tie everything back to Russia, right? They abso-fucking-lutely went above and beyond tying anything and everything back to Russia and Russian interference. It was ridiculous because it was a way to not do the proper autopsy of why Hillary Clinton had lost the election, right? Now, in the process of doing this Russiagate investigation, what they actually uncovered was that, yes, of course, there was Russian intervention or attempts at intervention, but they also found that there was a lot of Israeli intervention in the elections. And they very quickly were like, oh, never mind, let's not look into that direction at all. And it's happening again. But this time, they are using the Russiagate angle, the Russian interference, Russian agent angle, as a way to obfuscate from something that every single person with like 2 working brain cells can comprehend. It's very interesting. Russiagate was top-down, manufactured by one powerful faction of the U.S. elite to cripple a rival faction. A daily stream of spy agency leaks to friendly media. The narrative was one side is evil, one side is good, whereas the Epstein scandal implicates the entire ruling class. Exactly. I don't understand. Everyone knew. Everyone was involved. He had so much backup. How did Epstein even get behind bars? Alexander Acosta. Alexander Acosta unceremoniously became Trump's labor secretary. And Julie K. Brown and the Miami Herald investigated Alexander Acosta's background because it was a name that they remembered from the 2008 Jeffrey Epstein court case. Alexander Acosta was the prosecutor that gave Jeffrey Epstein this insane sweetheart plea bargain. One that allowed him, regardless of his
regardless of the nature of his crimes, one that allowed him to leave prison on a fucking work, on a worker structure. I forget what it's called, but like it was unheard of. There's never been a moment where someone who has who got their sex trafficking of minor charges reduced to trying to solicit prostitutes that were literally children, by the way, but they made it seem like he was just trying to solicit. I guess they did say, work release. Thank you. A work release program. There is no world where you get to get a work release program if you're a pedophile. Okay. There's no world where you get your sentence reduced as much as Jeffrey Epstein did. And there's certainly no world where you get put on work release as a pedophile. At most, if you are a pedophile in prison, they will put you away from Gen Pop, because if you're in Gen Pop, they will kill you, right? So you're kept under close watch. There is no world where you get work release as a pedophile, as you are carrying out your sentence. Like it's unheard of, dude. It's like getting a work release as a serial killer, okay?
Included in the release of over 3 million files adds to concerns that the Epstein pedophilia scandal was co-organized by Russian intelligence.
Anyway, Julie K. Brown conducts this investigation with Miami Herald, going back to the Epstein files. It becomes viral, and then it becomes such a major issue that the Trump administration has to address it. The Department of Justice, well, not the Department of Justice, but the Southern District of New York reopens the Jeffrey Epstein case, take a closer look at it. And they arrest him, obviously, because there's a lot of fucking evidence that he has continued his conduct. And they take all of his data from his New York mansion, his New York residence, and then he dies under the watch of Bill Barr in a federal prison. The same federal prison that Luigi Mangione and Maduro are in right now.
This has pushed the Prime Minister to ask for a probe to be conducted into Epstein's possible links with Russia's secret services, as well as to Tusk's.
I was in work release for heroin addiction in like 2012, and I'm very sorry to tell you that you are very wrong about this. You get work release for pedophilia. It's child endangerment. I mean, I know the criminal justice system is very bad at work release, but he didn't spend most of his prison sentence in. Chomos get work release and into halfway houses all the time. Chatter. He literally was just sleeping at the prison. Like every day he was able to go back to his fucking mansion. You're talking about being released into a halfway house. He was not released into a halfway house. He didn't check in at a serious job site either. Oh, he didn't die in the same prison as Luigi? I'm aware he's a different case. I'm just saying it's not unheard of.
Country.
A growing number of commentators and experts assume that it is highly probable that this was a premeditated operation by the Russian KGB. This so-called honey trap set for the elites of the Western world, primarily the United States. This can only mean that they also possess compromising material against many leaders still active today.
Suspicions that are fueled by the release of emails showing the lengths Epstein and his associates went to recruit young Russian women, with documents including requests to book flights from Moscow to Paris and to New York. A honey trap designed to blackmail the global elite. Vladimir Putin is named over 1,000 times.
Epstein died in Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Luigi and Maduro at MDC Brooklyn. Sorry. I'm wrong. I apologize. It's MCC, not MDC. You're right.
In the latest documents, exchanges discuss appointments to come between Epstein and the Russian president, including after Epstein was convicted of procuring a child for prostitution. Previous emails also appeared to show Epstein offering advice to politicians on how to deal with Donald Trump. The question as to whether he was working for secret services isn't a new one. For years, some have suggested Epstein was in fact working for Israel's Mossad. Donald Tusk said that he would encourage others to pursue an international investigation.
I like that the entire video is about connections to KGB, and then there's like a brief moment where they revealed the Mossad angle. Nice.
Immigration agents and officers from the Minneapolis area, but Border Czar Tom Homan says roughly 2,000 or so will remain. That is more than 3 times the number of city police officers. Homan said personnel on the streets would now start to wear body cameras. The government also faces waves of resignations by U.S. attorneys in Minnesota. Omar Villafranca has more on the federal employees who are leaving Minneapolis.
I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people.
On Wednesday, Border Czar Tom Homan said he's reducing the number of federal immigration agents in the Twin Cities. After months of sweeping immigration enforcement operations that have been met by widespread protest, culminating with the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens.
Do you think this operation was a success here in Minnesota?
I think it was very effective as far as public safety goes. Was it a perfect operation? No.
In a statement, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said the reduction was a step in the right direction, but called for a faster and larger drawdown of forces. Homan said the move was spurred in part by heightened cooperation between Minnesota County jails and ICE. Meanwhile, 4 federal prosecutors who led a $250 million fraud case have resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis, part of a wave of departures that has slashed the district staff. Sources say the office now has as few as 17 assistant U.S. attorneys, down sharply from 70 during the Biden administration. The resignations in part over the massive federal immigration enforcement crackdown and clashes with protesters in the state. Among these departures, Julie Lee, an ICE attorney who moved to the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office in January to help it respond to what she called a tidal wave of civil filings from detainees. According to a court transcript, Lee told a judge during a hearing in St. Paul her job sucks and asked to be held in contempt so she could get 24 hours of sleep. Lee had picked up 88 immigration cases in a month. She went on to say, according to a court transcript, "What do you want me to do? The system sucks. This job sucks. And I'm trying every breath that I have so that I can get what you need."
Lee's remarks show the pressure that federal attorneys are under to keep up with the administration promises of carrying out mass deportations. Adriana?
Omar, thank you so much.
Remember, the drawback of 700 federal agents from Minneapolis is utterly irrelevant when you consider that 3,000 agents were sent there. Okay? This is a symbolic retreat, I think, in an effort to try to shift the attention away from Minneapolis while continuing its fucking its anti-immigrant operations en masse. It's completely insane. And yeah, I mean, we're still on fuck ice. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is obviously doing its very best to capitulate to the interests of the administration for some fucking weird reason. Well, I think we know what the fucking weird reason is that they are the controlled opposition party. People on the ground from Minneapolis are reporting that ICE is still fully operational, and they're still conducting their anti-immigrant deportation schemes. So I think this is a switcheroo to stop you from paying attention.